Perspective, the judicial officers and the year of 2020, an international retrospective. My name is Mariana Líria. I'm a judicial officer in Rio de Janeiro, in Brazil. I'm a member of the local union, and I'm also on board of the National Federation of Judicial Officers, Federal Judicial Officers in Brazil. Thank you very much for coming, for joining us today. Unfortunately, 2020 has been a really, really tough year. All of us grieving some of our beloved ones. And it's also been really peculiar for us judicial officers, considering the circumstances under which we needed to work this year, right? So this is why we're here today. Now we're gathered here today to talk about this year, to talk about all the solutions that we needed to come up with to keep on working, and also the impact of the pandemic in our job. So first of all, I invite you, all of you, to be a part of this debate with us today. So we would be very pleased to have your comments and your questions, both via YouTube or Facebook. So don't be shy. You can make your comments in Portuguese, in Spanish, in French, or of course in English. And we're going to be really glad to translate them and try to interact with all of you colleagues from all over the world. So I'm really glad to have this amazing team of colleagues here with me today. So I would like to introduce you to all of them. First of all, I would like to introduce you to Neemias Ramos Freire. He's a judicial officer in São Paulo in Brazil, and he is the president of our National Federation of Federal Judicial Officers. And I also have here with me Malone Cunha. Malone is a federal judicial officer in Belém. He's the president of the local association of federal judicial officers in the Amazon area. And he's also in charge. He's also in charge of international relationships in our federation. So he's leading our team here today.
Hello.
So I also have Teresa Lungova, who is an execution agent in Břeclav in Czech Republic. And she's a member of the National Chambers of the Judicial Officers in Czech Republic.
Good evening, everyone.
We also have Francisco Papini, who is a judicial officer in Buenos Aires, and he is on board in the Unión de Empleados de la Justicia de la Nación Argentina, which is the national union of judicial workers in Argentina.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure for me to be here sharing this moment with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. So we also have Patrick Gillen, who's a judicial officer in Brussels, in Belgium. And he's a special counselor for the presidency of the International Union of Judicial Officers.
Hello to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you, Patrick. And we also have Mohamed Mukhtar Silla, who is a judicial officer in Conakry, in Guinea. And he is the General Secretary of the National Chamber of Judicial Officers in Guinea.
Hello, everyone. I am proud to be with you.
Thank you, Mohamed. I would also like to thank Caroline Colombo, who is our journalist. She might not be showing at the moment, but all of you know that she's working really hard backstage, and she's making this event possible today. Thank you, Carol. Thank you very much. Now, my colleague, Neemias, is getting started in Portuguese. So he's gonna get started greeting all of you in Portuguese. And I would like to remember that as soon as possible, in a few days, I guess, we're gonna be presenting this event with subtitles in Portuguese. So at the moment, I hope all of you are gonna be able to follow us in English, but don't forget, like Brazilians and Latins, don't forget that we are gonna have Portuguese subtitles soon. So, Neemias, tá com você.
Boa tarde a todos e a todas. É com grande honra e prazer que recebemos aqui nossos colegas de várias partes do mundo, bem representando aqui os oficiais de justiça de todo o mundo. Nós gostaríamos de dizer que este ano de 2020 foi um ano muito difícil para todos nós. Foi um ano que perdemos vários colegas para a Covid-19. Destacamos a perda do presidente honorário Jacques Irnat, presidente honorário da União Internacional dos Oficiais de Justiça, mas vamos seguir em frente, vamos continuar olhando para frente, vendo as perspectivas que temos. E é muito gratificante saber que somos uma grande família de oficiais de justiça em todo o mundo. Trazemos aqui para os colegas brasileiros a experiência de colegas de outras partes do mundo, da Europa, da África e das Américas, no enfrentamento desse que foi um ano atípico, um ano difícil para todos nós. Mas seguiremos confiantes e gostaríamos de dizer que, irmanados com os sentimentos de todos que estão aqui e de todos os oficiais de justiça em todo o mundo, as perspectivas de conquistas para a nossa categoria serão muito maiores. Esperamos, com isso, dar para todos os votos de Feliz Natal neste ano e um 2021 com bastante saúde para todos nós, para todos os colegas oficiais de justiça que partilham dessa mesma experiência de trabalhar com a justiça, de levar a justiça para as ruas e de fazerem o seu trabalho e cumprirem a sua missão. Muito obrigado, bem-vindo, welcome, colegas todos que estão aqui, é um prazer enorme recebê-los. Obrigado.
In 14 days, we will be ending the year 2020, but surely 2020 will be forever in our memories. We cannot deny that 2020 is a year that profoundly marked our personal and professional lives in Brazil and in the world. A year in which we lost friends, relatives, colleagues. The last year, the year that never happened, canceled events, postponed events, work at home, computer meetings. In 2020, we had to learn a new way of working, or in certain parts of the world, in the face of threats to our profession, learning not to work and suffering a year of catastrophic financial losses. In Brazil, the pandemic came with a strong threat to public service as a whole. Here, the judicial officers are employees of the state, and as it were, they lived and live threats of a reduction of wages by up to 25%, suspension of the payment of transport compensation, and a constitutional administrative reform proposed by the president, Jair Bolsonaro, who intends to exterminate with the public service. 28 colleagues died as a result of COVID-19. Many in activity, so may have contracted the disease in the exercise of their duties. Courts determined to return to activities when the situation is nowhere near normal. In the state of Rondônia, the State Court of Justice presented a bill that aims to remove the service of documents from the judicial officers and deliver them to the notaries. It was not a regular year in Brazil. It was not a regular year to the world. Where judicial officers are private agents, obligations to their offices accumulate day by day. And in some places, they have been prevented from enforcement. In Argentina, the wages crisis forces judicial officers and other judicial workers to take the streets in protest for dignified remuneration, risking their lives in the midst of a pandemic. In the Dominican Republic, a bill of the judicial officer is facing hard time in order to minimally serve the interests of the profession. In Chile, where our colleagues are private agents, the financial obligations continue with their employees despite the year of financial losses of life. And at this moment, I would like to extend my condolences to the National Chamber of Judicial Officers of the Czech Republic, who lost their president, Vladimir Plasil, this month. In addition to the UIHJ itself, who lost its honorary president, Jacques Snad. Today we are gathered for a retrospective on the difficulties and battles of the year 2020 for the judicial officers, and for that we count on the participation of colleagues from 3 continents to try to recall these and some other relevant moments experienced this year and reflect together about what to expect in 2021.
So, colleagues, I'm now going to get started with the questions. Before that, I would like to thank all of you who are following us via YouTube and Facebook. And I do realize that some of our beloved friends are already saying hello from, I see colleagues from Argentina, from Brazil, both federal and state judicial officers. So Argentina, and many colleagues who are speaking Spanish, so from different parts of South America, also from France and Paraguay. So here's how it's going to work. We're going to make a couple of questions. It's going to be 3 questions in total. And we're going to hear each one of our guests following up to the questions. So I'm going to be making the first question, which is, what were the negative effects of the year 2020 on the profession of the judicial officer in your country, considering the COVID-19 pandemic?
Okay. Do I go first?
Yeah, we're going to be hearing Francisco Papini first, please.
Okay. I represent the General Direction of Judicial Officers from Argentina, depending on the Supreme Court of Justice. First of all, I have to give my condolences for all the victims of COVID-19. On the other hand, if I were to make a recap of 2020 accounting for the impact of COVID-19 in our job, I would say that overall balance was positive. Every crisis provides an opportunity, and we took advantage of the situation and made major improvements despite the severity of the crisis. We had major shortcomings with technology that called for an urgent update. When the quarantine began, we had to immediately transition into remote working, which was a new way of working for us. Although there were and continue to be some challenges, our office did not quit working one single day. We had the advantage of receiving the latest news from other countries and learning in advance how the pandemic was evolving. This foresight allowed us to anticipate similar issues and execute quick responses, oftentimes learning from our neighboring countries, like our brother Brazil. At the beginning, it was just our director, Ms. Rosario Brinsek, and a few judicial officers that she referred to as the brave ones. They took over the most urgent issues until high sanitary security protocols were set. Our team was significantly reduced because of age, family issues, or pre-existing diseases, which qualified them as COVID risk staff, required them to stay home. As a result of a pneumonia I had a few years ago, I was excused from attending executions and began doing home office. And this may lead to the obvious question, how does a judicial officer do home office? Well, let me tell you that I was able to assist the director, helping to answer all the inquiries from the lawyers, courts, and even my fellow colleagues. There were so many issues going on and such a steep daily learning curve that questions kept coming and coming. I would like to highlight that this couldn't have been possible without a great teamwork. My colleagues that were risking their health on the streets, the union that created sanitary protocols to protect us, our director who designed it and implemented with the help of the union a strategy to reduce the quantity of people in the office. And of course, home officers, workers like me. We have been working hand in hand to make this happen. While still needing to work with paper orders, we came up with different ways to ensure our safety. We alleviate the need for everyone to attend the office daily. We set a schedule of rotating shifts, and we implemented a kind of delivery system for judicial orders, assigning one judicial officer to pick a bunch of judicial orders and deliver them to his colleagues. I'm proud to say that our revisions were successful, and as such, only had 4 positive COVID cases within the justice officers. All of them got sick outside the office premises, and none were critical or fatal. As I said, neither we nor our technology were prepared to undertake the upcoming work requirements. Most of us didn't know how to use a software to check a digital signature or track a judicial order. We had different states using different programs, and even the court software differed from ours, causing problems to validate the documents being received. But as we marched through the pandemic, we adapted and learning how to use and update the software, confirming once more that technology is a tool to assist and enhance our job, but cannot replace human resources. Another example demonstrating the importance of human oversight was uncovered with the discrepancy between a presidential order and eviction orders. Because of a loophole in a presidential order, judges continued ordering evictions, and of course lawyers wanted to execute them. So on one hand, some but not all evictions were suspended. On the other hand, there was a mandatory lockdown with a stay-home order issued by our president. So what should the judicial officer do in this scenario? Executing the judge's order would violate the presidential lockdown and would risk public health, eventually spreading the virus. So after long discussions between our director and superior, it was agreed to ask the courts for a second opinion for each particular order regarding the presidential bill. And I have to say that most cases resulted in the suspension of the eviction. COVID has given us opportunities to transition into a more advanced technology, but has also taken away many things. It has taken away the opportunity to participate in congresses, exchanging experiences and learning from our international colleagues. It has taken away the daily communication with our fellows, the small talk, the exchange of opinions before and after executing an order. It has even taken away our winter recession. Our union is still fighting to get those vacation days back, which we have earned and respectfully deserve. Finally, I would like to thank the organization of this live because they are giving us a great opportunity to share a much needed moment together. Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco. We are now going to be hearing Mohammed, please.
About this question, I would like to say in Guinea, we projected to organize during 2020 African colloquium and international colloquium. We plan to participate to a lot of conference as Moscow International Conference about enforcement system and another international meeting like Africa and Europe colloquium in Dakar. With COVID-19, it was possible to participate and organize this conference. All meetings over 10 persons have been not allowed in Guinea with decision of government. As you see, these organizations are very important for belief training. That's why when we have to organize our training, we take authorization with government, and if we are not to train or to organize meeting. Regarding our activities, our chamber took 2 decisions in order to minimize COVID-19 effects on our corporation. In this decision, we urge our members to respect convention with the government about reduce contacts and to use sanitary tools. Unfortunately, all organizations we organized during this year were postponed. Government take this decision and ensure when after COVID-19, it is possible to give a subvention in order to organize the international colloquium in Guinea during 2021, May 2021. Finally, we have one position. The position is to see the Ministry of Justice in order to facilitate all activities locked by government. That is the resume about the effects COVID-19 on our activities. Thank you so much.
I will talk for Belgium. Thank you for this nice question. First of all, I would thank the Fenassojaf for the organization of this important event, and especially thank you to my friend Malone for the good cooperation we have since now more than 1 year. Even it's online, it's a real pleasure for me to work together with you and to be present today. This first back question, what happens this year with this pandemic is very unique. Let's hope that this event does not repeat itself and that we will see some return to a normal situation in 2021 with the vaccine that is coming. It's the first time in our history that the profession of judicial officer is affected such in a strong way, not only on a regional level, but really in a world level. 2 waves in Belgium. The first from March until May, and the second began in October and is not yet done. We have a big meeting there is a big meeting tomorrow, maybe we will get stronger measures for the second wave. I will mention two specific effects on the pandemic on our profession. The first is the decrease of the work of the judicial officer in Belgium. I will try to share my screen to show you some pictures.
I'm guessing Patrick could be finding some trouble to share his screen. Do you hear us? Malone, can you see Patrick? Because
Yes, I can, but I think the image is freezing.
at the moment. Patrick, can you hear us?
Yeah.
He might have had some trouble with his connection, because we can still see him, but he started sharing. I think we lost connection with Patrick, right? I don't really see him. I don't really see him on the screen. What we could do now, Teresa, would you be ready to follow from now on? And
He said he's back.
Once he's back, is he back?
I think.
Let's wait for another second then. Or Malone,
Tem que
do you
autorizar.
see him, Malone? Ah, yeah.
Yes, but sorry, I want to share my screen, and I had a bug, so I will not share my screen and explain it by my words. So at the beginning, I was talking about the decrease of the work of the judicial officer in Belgium. So we have a decrease of our work, not from the authorities, but we have taken our own responsibility in this crisis. I would share the screen, but it's not possible, so I will talk to you. We have reducing of our work in the first lockdown against companies, about 80% of the enforcement on attachment on movable goods. And in the second lockdown now in November, the reducing was about 80%. And for the citizens, so the enforcement against the citizens, it was in the first lockdown 83%, and in the second one 87%. But this is without any measures from our Minister of Justice, because we have to take our responsibility and to work also with this crisis. It was not stop every activities. Why not? And I will give you an answer from the side of the debtor. Not all citizens and not all of the companies are suffering from the crisis. Some companies are still open and are running very good, and some citizens continue their daily work. They're working mostly from home, but all is going on a normal way. So for some people, we have to go further with the enforcement. And from the side of the creditor, some creditors can stop enforcement to help the debtors to get out of this crisis because they have enough of cash flow. But other companies have not enough cash flow and needs to go further and needs the money that the debtor has to pay. And this is even true, more true in the second wave we are living now than in the first one. We must avoid that the creditor of today becomes the debtor of tomorrow. We, as judicial officer, have to remain at the disposal of the creditor and of the debtor to try to find the best solutions. The restaurants, the bars, and the hotels are very, very, very painful in this crisis. And here we have a reduction of our work from 94%, but even there is no any enforcement against these companies. Another consequence from this crisis at our profession is a significant financial impact. So this reducing of the workload has the serious impact on every of the companies here in Belgium. First of all, a drastic reduction in the turnover. I will only talk here about the the situation in my office. In April, it was a reduction of 35%, in May of 40%, and in June, 45%. We had also played with the temporary unemployment for the some of our staff. We tried to let work the mostly of our staff because we had work, but the turnover is only reducing. We have also a reducing of our documents we served. In April, 20%, in May, 47%, and in June, more than 50% more documents we not served. But we have to do our job. We are judicial officers. We have to do our job in every situation, even if it's a crisis. Because if we are not working, the world is not going round anymore. We have to make the right balance between the debtor and the creditor. So we tried to reinvent by ourselves. For sure, we tried, how do we try to do this? To do more and more mediation. We sent in 3 months more than 10,000 free reminders to the debtors to try to stay in contact with them. We contact them by mail, by phone, by anything what is possible. And we try to let work the maximum of our staff. In one word, we try to make the debtor responsible, to try to keep the contact with him, because if you don't keep the contact with the debtor, he will forget he have to pay, and in 5, 6, 7, and 8 months, and after this crisis, everyone is going to him, and this will really be a disaster. And we succeed, because even we had less of the turnover and less documents to serve, we could pay to the creditors only 10% money less than in 2019. And the reaction from the debtors were very positive, because we helped them to find a solution for the debts between the debtor and the creditor, so everyone was happy. We are the only professional in the judiciary who is at the debtor's place. But one big problem in Belgium is that we are not paid for only doing mediation. The only fee we can receive in Belgium are the fees from our documents we serve. So our documents, our judgment we serve, and the enforcement acts we are doing at the place of the debtor. But for the mediation, it's not the work where we get fee, and this is the reasons because we have such a reduce of our turnover. But so as I said, we are judicial officers, and we have to find a solution. We have to work. We have to be active in this situation. Thank you for this first question.
Okay, I will go on for the first question. I hope you can hear me. First, I would like to thank you for the kind of invitation for this very important event, as I think it's really important to meet even in these hard times, even more important than in good times, I would say. And I would like to thank Meloni for condolences for the death of our president, who passed away 2 weeks ago with COVID-19. As the question stands, in the Czech Republic, we also, as I guess it's similar in the most of the world, we had 2 waves of coronavirus. The first one was in the spring. The second one started in September, and now we are in fact right away entering the 3rd wave, it seems. The spring period of coronavirus in the Czech Republic brought quite intense restrictions. Many of those focused directly on the activities of judicial officers. For example, from April till the end of June, it was forbidden by law. The law as such was called Lex COVID, to do attachment of movables. Even making a statement on debtors' movables for the purposes of enforcement was limited only to the cases of special concern. At the same time, it was restricted to do forced sale of immovables, I mean auctions. of immovables in which the debtor had their registered place of residence. Other forms of enforcement were also limited in a way, for example, salary attachment and so on. In the middle of November, with the second wave of the epidemic, the amendment to Lex COVID came into force, and again it's restricted to sell movable assets and immovables in which debtors have their registered place of residence. So far, Lex COVID is in force till the end of January 2021, and we will see how it will be after that. But probably the biggest challenge everyone had to face was the lockdown as such, and the hard quarantine measures brought within. For example, limitations to the work of the offices of the judicial officers. For example, cutting the opening hours and the work as such. These were intended to protect the health of the employees of the offices, paying for the costs and salaries, which meant the real hit to the economic balance and cash flow of judicial officers. Some of the offices and the judicial officers were brought to the very, very edge of economic crisis. The government came with compensations for all employers in form of remunerations, of part of salaries of employees who fell ill or who could not work because of the anti-epidemic measures. But unfortunately, there was no special compensation for judicial officers who exercise public powers. As we can see, the 2020 meant a real endurance test for the profession of judicial officers, and many of us, of our colleagues, are simply struggling to survive economically, and we hope for better tomorrow.
Well, I'm going to the second question, but first I'd like to send a big hello to our fellow judicial officer, Vera Pinheiro, who is in the audience. Vera from Rio is a very special guest. 2020 was a financially difficult year for entities and for countries worldwide. In many places, such as Brazil, the consequences fall on public servants as a whole, and on judicial officers especially. A particular case caught the attention of Fenassojaf and the UIHJ in 2020, which was a bill from the Brazilian state of Rondônia that aims to remove the communication of acts, service of documents from the judicial officers and pass it on to the notaries, something unprecedented in the world as far as we know, with the justification of saving money. I would like to invite you to reflect quickly on this type of threats suffered by our category in some countries, especially in the year 2020. Francisco, please.
Okay. I would like to begin by saying that I'm very sorry about what is happening in Rondônia state, and I hope it doesn't go any further, because it will represent a big loss for our colleagues. It's also important to note a unique distinction, because unlike other states in Argentina or other countries in the world, we have judicial officers and notifier officers. The judicial officers, we make the executions, and the notifiers just make the communication of acts. Our city is divided in zones, named by numbers, and each officer is in charge of one zone. Because of the pandemic, the union helped to reorder the zones, so the notifier just has to do the notifications within his neighborhood, avoiding public transport. I think in our country, while we might be feeling threatened, it's not in the same manner as in other countries. We have a salary, and we collect the same amount of money no matter whether we do one execution or hundreds of them. The same for the notifiers, sorry, as they get the same salary no matter how many communications of others they do. To transfer our duties to a public notary would be much more expensive because they charge for every single act. In fact, it is allowed to do some notifications with notaries, but nobody does this since it is extremely expensive. I think our biggest threat is to keep our annual budget intact, since it is very tempting for governments to have budget cuts when in need of money funds. For example, last year, the Congress modified our retirement conditions. Now we have to contribute an extra 6% of our salary, adding up to a total of 18%, which is way over the monthly percentage any other citizen contributes to the retirement fund. Also, they modified the retirement age for men from 60 to 65, while maintaining the retirement age for women, which was left untouched at 60. I'm still crying about this, I have to tell you. But there is also good news too. Despite the pandemic and the worldwide economic crisis, we were still getting our full salary in a timely manner every month. Just our annual bonus was paid in 3 installments instead of the usual one payment. But considering a big part of the population is getting salary reductions, losing their jobs, or going bankrupt, it is fair to say we cannot complain at all. Finally, I hope that our profession never vanishes or that we become extinct. For this, it is our responsibility to be up to date with constant training and to make sure we do a difference whenever possible. We need to demonstrate how essential we are, based on our qualifications, and that the difficulties we endure every day could not be executed by anyone. Thank you.
Mohammed, we would like to hear you now. Do you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you. We say the reach of this tweet. But in my country, we knew that belief is moving official on the public side. That is why we anticipate with communications and explain between us how to maintain or boost our activity. At first, we have honor, stand, trust with government, because when government took its decision to postpone all organization, enforcement system would not be affected. But our chamber in his executive committee took this decision to help government to install all restrictions in our corporation, so that we advise to all our members to state restriction respect less person when the enforcement law enforce judgment, and to use sanitary kit. Even though have the difficult to work with bank and corporation, we respect all restrictions, and we took 2 notice. First notice is to work 3 days for 3 hours. Second restriction is to work with bank 3 hours and 3 days. In our country, we reflect about how to reduce effective of team through execution, how to update enforcement system, including digital, special Caesar, and notification, also report. Often, we are rarely communicate with a pressman. Our chamber decided to maintain our activities during 1919 and next years to give first object to communicate with media and all press paper. Thank you so much.
Yes, I will go on for Belgium. So thanks for this question, Malone. The consequences of this back crisis can be very dangerous for our profession. In the first back question, I talk about how our profession react, and now I will talk how our state has reacted on this situation. The authorities want to give solutions at this back crisis to the citizens and the companies, but we see that no back country finds the right way to fight this virus. We see that it happens that the authorities and our states want to take the lead and take the decisions that are sometimes not real democratic. The first point is a suspension on enforcement. We received in the first wave, and I think this night we will receive the second general suspension on enforcement. This is at the moment I speak here in discussion in our parliament, and it has to be voted tonight and will be published in our official paper on 24th of December. So it's a Christmas night, so it's a nice gift for the debtors that we cannot do any more suspension. And I will show to you what our Minister of Justice said in our parliament in April 2020. It's very weird. So I say what the minister said. I note that the instructions of the National Chamber from our profession are well followed by the judicial officers. This is shown by the statistic on attachment of movable property, attachment of immovable property, and attachment on bank accounts, which have fallen dramatically in the recent week. However, I have instructed my administration to prepare the law that will be necessary if it turns out that the instructions of the National Chamber are not longer being followed. Why was it necessary to take such a decision, to bring a law while the situation was under control? I showed you in the first back question the reducing of our work, so we took our responsibility. To put such a general suspension is very, very dangerous, not only for the debtor, but also for the creditor. If we have no enforcement, we will have a lot of companies or citizens that will not longer pay their debt, even they can pay their debt. And this is dramatic for our society. We as professionals, we know who can pay and who cannot pay at this moment. We are considered by law an essential profession, but by another law, we cannot do any longer our work. So this is a bit contradictory, specific from our country in Belgium. Such bad decisions are very dangerous, because once you have such a law, other questions can rise up by the political. The first one is, why do we need judicial officers? And why not change the profession? And you know, if the change is not coming from the profession, the change will not be good, especially in our time of the digitalization. And we see with this COVID back crisis, the digitalization it's really on the first step. We have to think, we have to react, and we have to propose. We have to be an actor of our change and not see the change coming by the other. So we try to fight again, but without any success, because we get this night, so as I said, new suspension on enforcement, and this will be until 31 of January 2021. And it's possible it can be longer, until end of March. I can give you another example about Italy, where there's also a general suspension of enforcement on the immovable goods. And the Italian association has tried to also fight this suspension. And the motivation is that these rules are seriously prejudicing the fundamental principles of the Italian constitution and of the European Convention of Human Rights regarding the effectiveness of executive judicial protection. It's the same in Belgium, and we see that every country is facing a little bit the same problem. Another problem we see is that during this COVID crisis, our authorities come with a lot of law proposals that have nothing to do with this pandemic. It's only a way to change things, such as in Romania. The first law was a replacement of the convocation to the court served by judicial officers, and now it could be done by lawyers with a request. So it's not passed, but it was a proposal that was on the table of our Minister of Justice. The second one was a proposal of law for the limitation for the retirement at 70. For the moment, I'm nominated until the end of my life to work at this profession, and now they want to limit this on 70 years. And now we have received on 3 December a second proposal on the same issue. So it has nothing to do with the COVID. And there is also a law who wants to change our fees. And also it's nothing in first step to do with this crisis. So there are some lobby groups that try to make bad changes and try to take this COVID as an excuse to bring these changes. But our profession reacts on the right way. We also make some proposals. The first proposal is in the digitalization. We have a very good procedure for recovering uncontested claims in B2B cases, and we try to make a proposal for B2C cases to reduce the cost for the debtor, to go faster and work more efficiently with the digitalization, and to respect, so as I said not one time, to respect the rights of the creditor and the rights of the debtor. And the second proposal we do is the law proposal 1, is to try to put up a digital platform on mediation to bring together all social organizations, all creditors, all debtors and judicial officers in order to find the best solution, to bring all the information in a digital platform and to try to find out what is the best way to help this debtor. So yes, we are suffering in the year 2020 a lot. But when I'm thinking, really, I think we are suffering in our profession every year. And we have to fight every year to try to explain how important our profession is. Thank you.
Okay, I will follow. As I'm not really familiar with the Rondonia case in detail, just in general, I will speak in general about some similar situations which can happen or might have happened in our country. Speaking for our chamber as a whole, and I discussed it with the lawyers of the chamber and with my colleagues, we consider it unacceptable if judicial officers are withdrawn the powers or the powers are handed over to other legal professions. In particular, when this takes place in such extraordinary circumstances and without being treated diligently with the legislative process. Notaries and attorneys traditionally have other activities very different from those of the judicial officers. The judicial officers are the prolonged hand of a court, and they enforce court decisions. It is only logical that in this scope they also provide proper service of documents and similar activities. As Patrick said right before me, he was just taking words from my mouth. In the Czech Republic, unfortunately, we also did not avoid legislative changes, which were not in the least connected with the coronavirus epidemic. Various interest groups abused the situation and the mood in the society to push through the limitations of judicial officers' activities for good. In fact, the Chamber of Judicial Officers of the Czech Republic keeps working on turning away some of those. For example, from April 2020 on, it is not possible to sell immovable property in case the sum of debts connected with the property, with a particular property, does not reach 100,000 Czech crowns, which is approximately 4,000 euros. Since April, it was 30,000 crowns, and now the limit was raised up to three times more. So this is one of the cases where the mood in the society and the lobby groups reflected the situation and turned it into their for their purposes. Thank you.
Well, the threats we had in 2020 in Brazil were not few, I must say. I highlight three situations. First, an administrative reform that can be said to exterminate the public service. As you know, in Brazil, the judicial officers are public servants, and as such, he is subject to the legal provisions of the class of public servants. The constitutional administrative reform proposed by President Bolsonaro reaches the so-called stability to death. Stability is an essential guarantee for the population and for the judicial officer as a public servant. Imagine having an order to enforce against a public authority. How calmly will the judicial officer fulfill it if he risks losing his job because of it? Stability is clear to be a guarantee of society for the fulfillment of public activities. In addition to this, we have proposed a constitutional amendment called Emergency Amendment that aims to reduce the salary of civil servants by up to 25%. How to arrive with employees and say, listen, live with 25% less salary, less money. This is what the government wants in Brazil, sending the account of the crisis generated by the pandemic to the civil servant and to the judicial officer. Now, all of this was an announced tragedy that entities are fighting against. What is new and absolutely nonsense, meaningless, is what's happening in the Brazilian state of Rondônia, as I asked in the question, where the State Court of Justice has created a bill to the state legislature to remove communication of acts and service of documents from the attribution of the judicial officer and deliver, believe me, to the registrar's offices, to the notaries. I was personally in October in Rondônia, where I met with the local authorities, including representatives of the judiciary, who seemed total lack of knowledge of the profession of judicial officers. They don't know anything. They said to me that they respect the judicial officers and that they would pass on the acts of mere communications, leaving only the complex and most important acts to the judicial officers. I heard that the communication of acts was a minor act, a minor attribution of the judicial officer, which could be very well be done by other people. Of course, that I presented the UIHJ position paper in which it notes the importance of the communication of the acts being the service of documents being made by an officer, together with a petition from the UIHJ itself, asking them to rethink the issue or even invite UIHJ and the officers to the dialogue. And they told me that they were open to dialogue and reconciliation. Do you know what they are willing to grant? Nothing. Not an inch. What dialogue is this? How do you explain to judges that this is not reconciling? The compromise in which I determine and you give up. I was even asked with some kind of irony that I was saying that there would be an international incident with the approval of the bill 83 of 2020. That's the number of the bill, 83. I made it clear that this subject is a total creation without precedent, and I reiterate that there is no incident, but an international embarrassment for sure, that is reverberating in the category, as it was mentioned even in the last Permanent Council of the UIHJ by the President. Anyway, the bill is currently in the state legislative branch, the Commission of Constitution and Justice, where the position of the Brazilian Bar Association, the lawyers, here we call OAB, is awaited to say that the project is unconstitutional. The bill is unconstitutional. I ask at this moment OAB not to be afraid to say about this unconstitutionality, as well as the Constitution and Justice Commission to have the courage to pronounce itself, because this project, this bill, which was made in the eagerness of to innovate, was born to go to the darkness of unconstitutional bills. Thank you.
Yes, Malani, I would like to assure all our Brazilian colleagues that Fenassojaf is always going to stand up against those kind of threats. And we're going to be united with our state colleagues and work together against that kind of threat to our profession. Okay, guys, so now I'm gonna be making the third question, which is, what can we expect from 2021 regarding the profession of judicial officer in your country? And we're gonna be hearing our friend Francisco Papini first. Pancho, between
Thank you.
us.
So, what do I expect? At least a perfectly effective vaccine and the end of the pandemic, please. Above all, because while we managed to adapt and evolve to the challenges brought us by the pandemic, I think we still have a long way to go. I hope that we can keep improving our technology and that the recognition we have achieved continues. Working remotely and dealing with lawyers and judges showed me, as Malone just said, that how little they knew about our job. But this year we were there where nobody else wanted to be. My colleagues, as I said before, they risked their health on the street so that justice execution never stopped it. And now those lawyers who excused from participating in the executions and stayed safe at home, they realized the extent of our compromise. Those who did home office like me focused on responding thousands of emails, most of them on the spot, eliminating doubts, giving advice, and helping other people to get their job done. We all received excellent results and many compliments, and we choose to take any complaints as inspiration for us to work harder and better. But what I consider the biggest achievement of 2020 is that with our director, Ms. Rosario Brinsek, we were invited to give a master class about judicial orders to the senior students of law school. It was a few years ago, after my first Congress in Paris, organized by the International Union, that we began thinking with Ms. Brinsek about the importance of including this subject in law school. And this year, that dream finally came true. We gave a 3-hour class with great acceptations, and from the audience, and we laid the basis for future master classes. These students are our future lawyers, maybe our future judges, and why not our future judicial officer. I would like to wrap up saying that these are my great expectations for 2021. To keep on improving and to keep shaping next generations. I hope we can return to attending congresses and reunions. Last but not least, I wish for us to be able to hug each other again and to toast for the future. Thank you very much.
We would like to hear Mohammed next.
It is important to know our corporation faced a lot of challenges. Debt standard heavy on more company structure, and judicial officials cannot manage all situations by litigation. Restriction affected more institutions so that certain of them need state or international community helps. Our chamber analyzing this situation, touching judicial official, try to give hand to its member. It is time to use updating of our organism with exam all system, including digital, especially Caesar, notification, and reported. We also managed to give force to our activities and to rally communication. We try to put commission. The committee will help us to know how we have to do to work with all pressmen. We try also to reduce effects during execution. In Guinea, when we have to go to the street and to execution, we move a lot of people, and that is not good when we have in COVID period. So that government would like us to examine with his committee in Ministry of Justice to take decision that will help another corporation like lawyers, notaries, and commissaire priseur. We told that commissaire priseur in Guinea to work together and give a politic about the system. To finish, we just have to certify, to boost and to maintain our activities. All judicial officials have to know the challenges is to give force to the activities and to work with probity. Seizing the reach of the tweet, the country knew that belief is moving official on the public side. To help all belief in Guinea to work with the public, we know government politic has to help us. Finally, this time, we put in our institution website and committee called scientific council who will analyze all methods that will help us to be great corporation. Thank you so much.
Yes, I will continue for Belgium. It's not easy to answer this question. When I hear all the intervention we have since the beginning of this conference, I can only say that we are all facing the same problems. How to get our position in our country, how to let know what we are doing, because the people don't know what we are doing. Let's hope for a return to the normal thanks to the vaccine. But I think that the post-COVID situation will not be the same than in the past. First, our fears in Belgium. First of all, is the extension of the suspension of enforcement of only pure politic reasons. Now we have the document, the law is there, and we need only an agreement about our ministers, and the extension can be there. Because not for some of the debtor, they will say, not paying the debt is not a big deal. Why should I pay if I don't have enforcement? A right without a sanction is not anymore a right. The second fear is bringing debtor back into a debt repayment path will be very complicated after several months of break. And a second problem here is that the old debt will come in the same time of the new debt. So it's very dangerous for the debtor to do nothing if they can do something. But the signal of our authorities are very dangerous. So it has to stop immediately. On the financial side, in our offices, is also very difficult. And 2021 will not be an easy year because we work under a liberal stages. No enforcement will say no income. And the fourth point, very important and very dangerous, is the digitalization of the procedures. We see in this COVID crisis that the digitalization is almost at the first point of the priorities of our states. And if we are not watching this, if you are not careful of these changes, if you are not at the right place, it can be very dangerous. But I would finish with a positive note for 2021. We have to be innovative. We have to be inspiring, we have to be active, we have to be present, we have to be the trusted third party. We need to take the train of the digitalization. We have to know what is blockchain, what is artificial intelligence, what are digital assets, what is algorithm, what is machine learning, what is big data, and why can we not, we as judicial officer, be an actor in the blockchain? Because if the proposals come from the outside our profession, it will be very, very, very bad for our future. I'm convinced that the future of our profession is in our hands. And if we take the right way to the future, we'll be full of light and positive feelings. And in the digitalization, you have to know that there's always a need of a human. The human can be the judicial officer. He is a trusted third party by excellence. If he has all the qualities to be independent between all the parties. One positive concrete note I can give is a new regulation 2020-1784 of the European Parliament and the Council of 25th of November 2020 on the service in the member states of judicial and extrajudicial documents and civil and commercial matters. It's a recast of our service of document regulation in cross-border cases. In this new regulation, the judicial officer plays a central role in the electronic transmitting by e-codex of the documents in the different EU states. So we will have the lead in this new implementation of this e-codex, what is the electronic transmitting between the countries. We need to see how we can adapt, how we can, in all the countries in the European member states, how we can adapt to try to talk with one voice and propose changes. This is very important. So we have to work on two sides. First of all, in a national way, for the specific national procedures. And this is the work of every national chamber. And in an international way, thanks to the International Union of Judicial Officers, for the great guiding principles. These guidelines regulate our profession on a worldwide, and gives the principles for our profession, as if not on a regional level, but on a world level. And so I said in the beginning, for the answering of this question, when I hear every country who is speaking here, we are facing the same problems. And the Union can help everyone, not only thanks to the World Code of Enforcement published in 2015 at the Congress of Madrid, and very soon, and this is for the Congress in Dubai in November next year, by the Global Code on Enforcement on Digital Assets, where we try to put on the big principles in all the digitalization and try to help with this to guide the countries, and then every national chamber can take the lead to implement this in his country. Thanks for the attention to all the audience. Thank you.
Okay, now it's my turn to say something to the last question we share. As Patrick right before me was speaking about the big issue in his country about cutting the fees of judicial officers, we also had quite a big issue in the Czech Republic in 2020, which was on territorial forces, powers of judicial officers. Even members of UIHJ, including Mark Schmitz, participated on the discussion because there were seminars in the government premises and even meeting with the Prime Minister of the Czech Republic, because the issue was really big. If it was passed, it would mean, or if it was accepted, I mean, the idea of territoriality of judicial officers, it would be a real revolution to our profession. Fortunately, it didn't. There were some particular special ways how the government meant to do the territorial, to impose the territorial powers, and it was really dangerous for our profession. In a way, but it was put aside, swept away for a while. So now we can be a bit calmer for some time. So in this way, the year which is coming, year 2021, will be in fact a bit easier concerning the proposals of new bills and the amendments and changes of our status of the way we are working. And as in most of the countries, I would say maybe all of them, the biggest challenge of 2021 will undoubtedly be the recovery from the current situation and rebuilding our offices so that they again become fully operational and able to provide the delegated court powers. Anyway, everything will be definitely influenced by the situation of COVID-19 epidemic. And the key question is if it's not the time to learn to live with the illness and to behave in a way not to get back into the world crisis, just to put up with it somehow and to live with the existence of this illness. And it's not only the task for judicial officers, but for all in general. And again, thank you for the invitation to this conference. I'm really happy to have participated, and luck to everyone. Thank you.
Well, what to expect in 2021? The bad news keeps coming. Yesterday, Uruguay closed the borders, and today the president of France is contaminated with COVID. Brazil is around 1,000 deaths per day. The truth is that 2021 will be a year of struggle and resistance. With the vaccine on the horizon, we expect normal life soon. But does normal life still exist? We never know. As a judicial officer, I expect to return to life as we knew. But can we expect to go out to streets without fear and work as we know? COVID-19 showed that technology is our future. We have to learn again with communication of acts by WhatsApp, hearings by Zoom, and what we called in Brazil and was mentioned in a commentary on YouTube, the so-called 100% digital judiciary. There is an initiative in Brazil. That is the future, and the future makes itself present now. This way, we keep existing and important. And besides that, we go on fighting. The entities are going to fight. We are not going to pay this bill. No, 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 sir. The President of Brazil, Ministry of Economy, we ain't no parasites. And if you understand me, we must say, respect the public service, respect the judicial officer. Thank you. Mariana, it's with you.
Thank you, Maloney. Guys, it's really nice to see that we are all part of a big family of judicial officers throughout the world, and how important it is to be part of our international union. Because we realized here today, and as usual, that we have many, many issues in common, no matter where you're coming from. And we, just as Maloney said, we should fight together. And it's also really nice to see how we can learn from each other, since we're exchanging experiences in an event like this. So, well, after all, we are the ones who are bringing justice to the streets, right? For those who need it, for those who really need it. And we need to show courts that this is a very, very important, unique profession and absolutely essential, so that people can actually have access to justice, and that we are organized worldwide. We have our entities, local, national, and international entities who are going to fight against all those threats. So in that particular regard, I would like to thank my great friend Maloney, who is leading our international relationships team. He's working in the UIHA innovation team, and he's doing a great job there. Way to go, Maloney. And providing us with those great opportunities to become closer to our international union. Been learning a lot from you, my friend. Thank you very much. And again, I would like to thank Teresa, Pancho, Patrick, and Mohammed for kindly accepting our invitation for being here today with us. And to be honest, I would have loved to be able to be with you guys and hug each one of you, especially in our international council, which permanent council, which just happened online in November. But, well, actually, it's great to have the opportunity to share, even if it's online. It's great to have the opportunity to share with all of you guys. And I would like to thank all of our colleagues who were being part of this debate, being part of our event here today online in our chats via YouTube and via Facebook. I just realized that we had friends from Brazil. Thank you, all of Brazilian colleagues. We saw Brazilian people from all over the country, from all those 5 regions of Brazil. It was great to have you guys. Also, colleagues from Argentina, Paraguay, Dominican Republic, France, Luxembourg, and Romania. Thank you all for coming. I would also like to tell you that we have this WhatsApp group called World Judicial Officers, and we have like a few representatives from many countries. And if you would like to join us, it would be our pleasure. We have like some small delegations from many countries, and if your country is not yet represented, it would be really nice to have you guys with us. And how are you going to do it? We would suggest that you drop us a message via Instagram. So you just have to look for Fenassojaf in our Instagram, and just give us your contact number, and we are going to be able to add you in our group. Okay, I guess that's it. I thank you all very much for this lovely event today. I would just like to finish by saying thanks in those different languages, so that our colleagues feel a bit more closer to us and a bit more, Brazilians are really warm. So, muito obrigada aos colegas oficiais de justiça brasileiros. Muchísimas gracias a nuestros colegas, compañeros hispanohablantes que están aquí hoy con nosotros. Thank you very much to all our colleagues from all over the world. Merci beaucoup à tous nos collègues les huissiers de justice. Thank you all for coming, and see you next time. And a great 2021 for all of you.